I'll call the monthly board meeting of the Shawrock River Watershed District for September 5th, 2023 to order. Leah, please call roll.
Manager Bakken.
Here.
Manager Kramer.
Here.
Manager Pasuski.
Here.
Manager Lee.
Here.
Manager Delger.
Here. Second item on the order is the public hearing for 2024 levy, administrative levy, debt service levy, liability insurance levy, administrative and project fund budget. Now open the meeting, the public hearing. All comments by proponents, opponents, or public shall be made from the podium. Please first give your name and address. This is required because of an official record of the public hearing is being made. Please note, comments are limited to 3 minutes. These rules are intended to promote the orderly system of holding a public hearing to give every person an opportunity to be heard, to ensure that no individual is embarrassed by exercising the individual's right of free speech. It is not necessary to be a proponent or an opponent in order to speak. If you consider yourself neither a proponent nor an opponent, please speak during the proponent portion. And identify yourself as neither a proponent or an opponent. No comment shall be made from any other location. Anyone making out of order comments may be subject to removal from the meeting. There will be no demonstration during or at the conclusion of everyone's presentation. Would anyone like to speak? Second time, would anyone like to speak? For the last time, would anyone like to speak? Hearing none, the public hearing is now closed. Item number 3, public hearing, Bryson wetland restoration. We'll open, or I will close the public hearing 2024 and open the public hearing Bryson wetland restoration. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak? For the second time, anyone from the public would like to speak? Third and last time, anyone from the public would like to speak? Hearing none, I will close the meeting. Item number 4, public forum. There's no one here from the public, so we'll go on to 5, the consent agenda. Following items will be acted upon without discussion in accordance with the staff recommendation and associated documents unless a manager requests opportunity for discussion. Minutes A, minutes of the August 8th, 2023 Shawrock River Watershed regular board meeting. B, August 23 treasurer's report subject to audit. C, August 2023 project fund treasurer's report subject to audit. D, authorized claim payment of claims. And E, authorized payment of project fund distribution. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
No, I make that motion, Mr. Chair.
By Manager Lee, do I have a second?
I'll second.
By second, Manager Kramer. Any discussion? Hearing none, will you please call roll?
Manager Bakken.
Aye.
Manager Kramer.
Aye.
Manager Pasuski.
Aye.
Manager Lee.
Aye.
Manager Delger.
Aye. Item number 6, table of the agenda. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions that need to be made to the rest of the agenda?
Mr. Chair, at this time, staff has no additions, corrections, or deletions to the agenda.
Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as is?
So moved.
By Manager Kramer, do I have a second?
Second.
By Manager Pasuski. Discussion. Hearing none, will you please call roll?
Manager Bakken.
Aye.
Manager Kramer.
Aye.
Manager Pasuski.
Aye.
Manager Lee.
Aye.
Manager Delger.
Aye. Item number 7, Administrator Andy Henschel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First item is item A, motion to approve the 2024 administrative levy and certify the administrative levy to the Fremont County Auditor Treasurer. You'll see in your packets the draft admin budget for 2024. Right now, that levy, or excuse me, that budget is set at $270,000. $800. That is up about $3,800 from last year, and that's because of an increase in our liability insurance. So again, looking for a motion to approve the administrative budget for $270,800.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
By Manager Kramer, do I have a second?
Second.
Manager Pursuski, any discussion? Hearing none, can you please call roll?
Manager Vaca.
Aye.
Manager Kramer.
Aye.
Manager Suski.
Aye.
Manager Lee.
Aye.
Manager Delcher.
Aye, motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item B is a motion to approve the 2024 debt service levy and certify the debt service levy to the Freeborn County Auditor Treasurer. The debt service levy for 2024 will be $178,625. So again, looking for a motion to approve the debt service levy and submit that to Freeborn County Auditor Treasurer.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
By Manager Lee, do I have a second?
Second.
By Manager Pursuski, any discussion? Hearing none, will you please call roll?
Manager Vaca.
Aye.
Manager Kramer.
Aye.
Manager Suski.
Aye.
Manager Lee.
Aye.
Manager Delcher.
Aye, motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item C is a motion to approve the 2024 liability levy and certify the liability levy to the Freeborn County Auditor Treasurer. Total amount for the liability insurance levy is $20,800. So again, looking for a motion to approve the liability insurance fund levy to the Freeborn County Auditor Treasurer.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
By Manager Kramer, do I have a second?
Second.
By Manager Lee, any discussion? Hearing none, will you please call roll?
Manager Vaca.
Aye.
Manager Kramer.
Aye.
Manager Suski.
Aye.
Manager Lee.
Aye.
Manager Delcher.
Aye, motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Motion D, or item D is a motion to adopt the 2024 administrative budget. And Mr. Chair, if we could get a motion for this, and then I'll go through the admin budget with you guys.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
By Manager Bachman, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Manager Kramer, any discussion? Andy?
So going through the admin budget, kind of line by line, but I'm not gonna go through all the details. But again, the general and administrative levy income, again, is the 2,500,000. The liability fund levy income is 20,800 for a total of income to the admin budget for 270,800. Under expenses, under personnel, we have a total cost of 95,600. Travel related expenses, 7,550. Personnel training, 8,750. Office expenses of $61,650. Professional services of $60,250. Capital expenses of $7,000 and $30,000 in reserve for a total expense of $270,800.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, will you please call roll?
Manager Vaca.
Aye.
Manager Kramer.
Aye.
Manager Suski.
Aye.
Manager Lee.
Aye.
Manager Delcher.
Aye, motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item E is a motion to adopt the 2024 project fund budget. Again, looking for a motion for this, and then I will go through it in some detail.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
By Manager Lee, do I have a second?
Second.
Manager Pursuski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So to go through the details of the project budget, first I'm going to cover the income. So we have the local sales tax for 2024 is projected at $1,620,000. We have bond fund levy of $178,625. We have the the LSOHC grant phase 8 of $900,300. We got the SRRWD Sam's grant phase 9 of $750,000. We got the SRRWD Sam's Upland Heritage grant phase 10 of $839,900. We got the LSOIC grant phase 11 at $1,186,212. We have the LCCMR grant of $232,300. We have the Bowser implementation for the One Watershed One plan at $96,664. We have the Lassard Sam's Outdoor Heritage Grant 12 at $2,198,000. And then we have the state bonding dollars for dredging at $9 million. We have other income and carryover of $1,601,000 for a total budget for income of $18,603,001. And I'll carve at that $1. We're gonna have a discussion. So quickly, just run through the expenses under line item 100, which is erosion and water control. We have $1,851,275. Under Bowser implementation grant, we have $106,278. Under the sub watershed projects, February 400, we have $472,000. Under item 500, which is the dredge elements, for 2024, we have $3,350,000. And then for water monitoring, 600 group, we have $41,000. For reserves, we have a total reserve for 2024 of $12,464,448. And then total for debt services, we have debt expense of $58,000. We have the bond principal for $110,000. Then we have the MPCA loan payment for $150,000 for a total debt service of $318,000, which brings us to a total disbursement of $18,603,001.
With that, do we have any discussion? Yeah, please call roll.
Manager Bakken,
Aye.
Manager Kramer,
Aye.
Manager Besuski,
Aye.
Manager Lee,
Aye.
Manager Delger.
Aye, motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item F is a resolution 2023-05, initiate the Bryson Wetland Restoration Project. Get a motion?
Get a motion to introduce the resolution 2023-05. Manager Besuski, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Manager Lee, yeah, please read the resolution.
I'll read the first one.
All right.
Resolution 2023-05, Bryson Restoration Project, initiate project 2023-01. Whereas the Shell Rock River Watershed District Board of Managers pursues the mission of implementing reasonable and necessary improvements to the water-related and other natural resources within its boundaries. Whereas the Shell Rock River Watershed District is charged with implementing the Shell Rock River Watershed District Watershed Management Plan. Whereas project goals and objectives set forth in the plan include: 1, improve water quality and clarity to district lakes, improve and enhance waterfowl habitat, maintain efficient systems and reduce transport of sediment, nutrients, and pesticides into surface water through the drainage systems, minimize flood damage to property and preserve the function of the floodplain, restore and retain water upstream throughout the watershed, preserve existing rural and urban wetlands, and encourage restoration and enhancement. Whereas the district has pursued a comprehensive watershed approach to reduce sedimentation and improve water quality, including filter strips, rock inlets, nutrient management systems, water and sediment basin installations, rough fish management practices, installation of fish barriers, septic system inspections, stream bank and ditch restoration projects, and the installation of rain gardens. Therefore, be it hereby resolved that the Shell Rock River Watershed District Section 1 initiates project number 2023-01 Bryson Restoration Project. Section 2 authorizes district staff to negotiate appropriate professional services agreements to promote and complete the Bryson Restoration Project efforts. And Section 3 authorizes district staff to conduct work as needed to present this project to the board for review and public hearing as required by law, dated September 5th, 2023.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, yeah, please call roll.
Manager Bakken,
Aye.
Manager Kramer,
Aye.
Manager Besuski,
Aye.
Manager Lee,
Aye.
Manager Delger.
Aye, resolution 2023-05 passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item G is resolution 2023-06 Bryson Wetland Restoration Project Plan Approval.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
My manager Bachman, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, who's gonna read this one? Mayor, please read. The resolution.
Whereas the Shell Rock River Watershed District Board of Managers pursues the mission of implementing reasonable and necessary improvements to the water-related and other natural resources within its boundaries. Whereas the Shell Rock River Watershed District is charged with implementing the Shell Rock River Watershed District Watershed Management Plan. Whereas project goals and objectives set forth in the plan include improved water quality and clarity to drinking lakes, improve and enhance waterfowl habitat, maintain efficient systems and reduce transport of sediment, nutrients and pesticides into surface waters through the drainage systems, minimize flood damage to property and preserve the function of the floodplain, restore and retain water upstream throughout the watershed, preserve existing rural and urban wetlands, and encourage restoration and enhancement. Whereas the Bryson Restoration Project 2023-01 was initiated on September 5th, 2023 by resolution 2023-05. Whereas the Board of Managers, having reviewed the project plan and has determined that approval of the project plan will further the objectives of the plan. Whereas the district has pursued a comprehensive watershed approach to reduce sedimentation and improve water quality, including filter strips, rock inlets, nutrient management systems, water and sediment basin installations, rough fish management practices, installation of fish barriers, septic system inspections, stream bank and ditch restoration projects, and the installation of rain gardens. Therefore, the Board of Managers hereby finds the project has a potential to promote the public interest and welfare, is practicable and conforms to the watershed management plan as set forth above. Now therefore be it resolved that the Shell Rock River Watershed District Section 1 approves the Bryson Restoration Project Plan as presented by JHS, and Section 2 authorize district staff to conduct work as needed to present this project to the board for final review and public hearing as required by law, dated September 5th, 2023.
Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair, just to give you a quick overview of the project, you'll see the project sheets coming from JHS. You will see on the second page, the area in black is the area that we are trying to define the easements with Dan Bryson. So this, again, easement will be paid for through LCCMR, and then the additional pages are the work that will be done to restore the wetlands in that area. Just to give it a little history on this, again, this is LCCMR funding. This funding was originally set to be used on County Ditch 16. However, that landowner went a different road with looking at wetland banks. So then again, we had to find an area within the district to spend this money, otherwise we would lose it. So again, when we worked with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, with the board and the IC&E property, the property is pretty much right across the road from it. It will definitely help improve that project as a whole. So we had some contacts with Ms. Bryson, and she was definitely interested, and therefore we moved forward with transferring that grant agreement with LCCMR from the previous landowner to the Dan Bryson landowner. So once we purchase the easement rights for this area, then we will use the additional funds within that LCCMR grant to then do the restoration portion of the project. So again, twofold, we're looking at storing more water on the land, taking excess or taking water out of that ditch system for the farmers in that area, and then also creating the restoration projects for habitat. So it's a good project all in all. I'm just looking for your support on approving the motion and the resolution for the restoration projects with AWS.
Is there any other discussion?
I had a question, Mr. Chairman. As far as ownership rights and easement rights, what's the long-term plan on this?
So the long-term plan, this is a perpetual easement. So the easement it's like a 99-year easement for the district. The district will, what we will have with the landowner is maintenance. So we'll have any maintenance that needs to be done out there. If you look at the projected plans of what we're proposing to put in, most of it's just tile breaks. So there's no real structures, that are high impact. There's some smaller structures on the property, so we will be held to whatever maintenance on the structures that we have out there. But again, there's no real high end structures out there. They're all mostly minimal culvert and tile breaks, again with some small berming.
So this property will not be open to the public then?
Correct, through LCCMR. Again, it's not like LSOAC where they have to be open to public. So at this time, no, this will not be open to the public.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, will you please call roll?
Manager Bakken,
Aye.
Manager Kramer.
Aye.
Manager Krasuski,
All right.
Manager Lee.
Aye.
Manager Belcher.
Aye, resolution 123-06. Passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item G, or excuse me, item H is a motion to execute the Yoast option agreement. As you can see in front of you, we have a option agreement with Mr. Yoast for 31.11 acres. Again, this property borders Everhart Lake, and actually includes a large chunk of land underneath Everhart Lake. This is an option agreement that was signed by the board back in 2022. We're looking at executing that option now that the appraisal has been done and a price has been agreed to by both parties.
Do I have a motion? Manager Pazuki, do I have a second?
Second.
By Manager Lee, any discussion?
Excuse me, are the details of the price and everything is not available?
They are. So total price for the purchase of the 31.11 acres is $205,000.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, will you please call roll?
Manager Bakken,
Aye.
Manager Kramer.
Aye.
Manager Krasuski,
Aye.
Manager Lee.
Aye.
Manager Belcher.
Aye, motion carried.
All right, Mr. Chair, the next item will be probably the most interesting item of the morning. We have a presentation from Geosyntec. Geosyntec is a engineering firm that I met with when I was out at the WIDA annual conference in Las Vegas. I had really good talks with Jason and staff from Geosyntec. So I brought them in here this morning to sort of give you a preview of their background. And then if we have any questions for them regarding the phase 3 dredge project for Fountain Lake, and also any questions regarding the CDF, they haven't seen all the sites yet. That is the plan after today. Today's meeting is to go over and look at some of the sites. So with that, Jason, if you want to introduce your team and sort of give the board a little update on Geosyntec.
Absolutely. We do have a presentation if you'd like to put it on, or we can talk freely as well.
Do you want to sit up here?
Yeah, if you can sit, if you look. Well, do you have it printed out by any chance?
Still, another copy.
That's all right. Can you just go through it?
Yes.
The only reason I asked is we got this on Facebook Live,
Right.
so
That makes sense, yeah.
if you guys want to come up here.
Yeah. We can get those.
In case if you don't mind, we'll probably just post it on our webpage, a presentation, if that's all right, and then
Yeah, something more just.
Yeah, that's something really good idea. Good question.
I thought it was pretty generous of these guys to come down and miss their Labor Day holiday and we can fly down and just.
Well, we got to see the first speak up. That's yesterday, so. They said. What's his name? It wasn't as hard for me, I just drove.
You just.
While I'm getting this set up, maybe we can do a quick introduction. Our thoughts is that we're excited to be here, so we appreciate the opportunity to at least come and present in front of you guys. The goal of today is to really try to understand the project better. We can give a little bit of background on our project understanding, as well as listen to some details that we don't have and really try to identify your wants, needs, and wishes over the course of today, so we can execute this project. I'm Jason Raimondi. I have about 13 years experience exclusively with sediment projects. My role on projects is generally tail end of the feasibility study, bringing it through design and into construction. That's the basis of the bulk of my background. It's I've worked on about over 60 sediment projects throughout the United States and Canada in key leadership positions, as well as moved about 20 million cubic yards of sediments. I'm the vice chair of the Environmental Commission for the Western Dredging Association and at the national level. And then in October, I'll be assuming the position 5-year term on the board of the Eastern chapter of the Western Dredging Association. I have Chris Robb and Corey Platt with me. I'll let them introduce themselves.
Go ahead. Well, sure. I'm Chris Robb. I've been with Geosyntek a little over 8 years. I've been in environmental consulting for over 27 years. I'm a civil engineer by training, and presently I'm managing we call our geo-environmental practice in the Midwest. And about half of that practice focuses on sediment projects, contaminated sediment projects, but also sediment projects for navigation, dredging, nutrient, and habitat restoration. And then in 2024, I'll be taking over management of the entire Midwest region. I'm based out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, near Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It's about a 4.5-hour drive over here. I'm familiar with the area. I have a lot of family across the Crescent. So Wisconsin. The other person that is not here with us today, who works in Wisconsin, is Brian Valesky. Brian Valesky is a certified lake manager. He does a lot of very similar types of projects in Wisconsin. And I'm going to talk about a few of those. Fortunately, he's not able to be with. We want him to come. He's on vacation today. He's enjoying his Labor Day. So, but feel free to ask us questions. I'm really excited to be here and excited to see what how we could potentially work with you.
And good morning, I'm Corey Platt. I'm a certified environmental professional. I've been dredging lakes and inland waters for over 30 years. One of the largest dredging and inland waterways and reservoirs. Dredge was 8 million yards. Principal drinking purpose. So we also had we needed to make sure the quality of the water was suitable during construction for to be taken out as drinking water. I've played in the mud for 30 years, and I just can't see you grow up. And my experience is from permitting and planning all the way through construction projects. $1,000 projects to $60 million. One of the other pieces of my background is About 30% of my background I spent as an advisor to the contractors on how to make the dredging process more efficient, how to make sure that they comply with the specifications, right, the permits and such. So I bring somewhat of a blend of contractor consultant together. And I implement the whole projects. And that's also a piece that I like to emphasize with the regulatory agencies of what I call workable permit conditions. Everybody needs to have permit conditions, but they need to be workable. I have to actually get the projects done. So that we like to start each of our meetings with a safety moment. This one may seem a little odd while we're sitting here under island. We understand it is it's a dredging project. And one of the biggest risks you drown in the water is falling overboard. Running through man overboard.
So man overboard is, as Corey mentioned, one of the larger risks, specifically as we get between pinch points and cold weather. That becomes a whole different set of hazards, but general man overboard reasons for falling overboard could be slippery deck, working overside of the deck, rough seas, or just general complacency and not being aware of your surroundings. So those are all things we need to be aware of, as well as all the other hazards on the deck, trip hazards, things like that. So if you do see a man that goes overboard, you're now identified as that person, a person in contact. You should yell man overboard as loud as you can. If you have a crew with you, you should maintain that line of sight and never take your eyes off that person overboard. If you don't, you can obviously do what you need to do to get rescue for that person. Get to your nearest throw ring, throw the ring to them, try to retrieve them. If you cannot get them with the throw ring, you should turn your engines off, go upstream, try to drift the boat towards them in a safe manner while utilizing that throw ring or other objects you may have on board. So you always need to be careful to approach carefully and slowly, as you don't want them to be impacted by the boat. And obviously there's change in variations to this, specifically cold water, if the person's unconscious. Once you recover the person, apply the appropriate medical care and the appropriate medical procedures accordingly to their conditions. So with that, I want to go a little bit into our company overview. So Geosyntac is an engineering consulting firm. We do a little bit of everything. We've been established in 1983, so for about 40 years. We do have a 25-year history in Minnesota and Wisconsin. So we've been in this area. We have multiple projects here. Our core operating principles is to develop a core team, and that team's committed from the start through finish of that project. So we don't intend to do a bait and switch. The people in this room today are the people we intend to participate and work on this project actively. We will only further pull from hundreds of other practitioners who are focused on sediments to build this team and fill gaps that we may not have. We can't be experts in everything. We can be knowledgeable in a lot, but we want to get the right people working on the project so it's efficient and streamlined. With that, our industry presence, we've taken more than 200 sediment projects over the course of our history. And we are very active in dredging associations such as the Western Dredging Association, where platinum sponsors, members, commission members, board members, we're leading their sustainability commission, or mentors, as well as a list that we could keep going with. But long story short, we're very active in the dredging community, as well as us who's sitting in the room today. Yeah, I missed. Want to add to it? That's good. So we'll go a little bit into our sediment experience. We have 4 projects that we thought were kind of applicable. This is just a small snapshot of the many that we have. Chris will give us a couple in Wisconsin, or he's going to give us one in Massachusetts, and I'll talk about one in Monroe, Michigan.
So just to dovetail on what Jason was saying is the 4 projects that we briefly wanted to talk about had elements that we see are similar to or potential opportunities that you may potentially realize here at Fond du Lac. So that's how we picked these projects. The first project is it's called Lake Mississippi. This is a very shallow eutrophic lake. It's about 3,000 acres. It's actually about 15 minutes from where I live. Used to serve Wisconsin. And this particular lake has a lot of issues with nutrients, sediments, navigational. It's very shallow, not navigational requirements. It also has a lot of impacts of carp. A lot of problems in that area with just overall carp populations, and it's surrounded by farm fields. So it gets a lot of runoff directly from farm fields, a lot of nutrient issues. So we work with the Lakes Mississippi Improvement District and to develop really a management approach for incoming sediment. So first of all, we want to cut off all the sediment that's coming in the Lakes Mississippi, because it's actually a flowage of 2,000 acres. Secondly, we worked with the Wisconsin Department of National Resources to develop a sediment management approach. And through that, we developed a grant application to get funding for this project through the state wildlife grant. So we work hand in hand with the Lakes Mississippi Improvement District, continuing to work on this particular project. At this time, we are really on the front end of this particular project. We haven't dredging quite like that yet. We're mostly focused on sediment control at this time. The second project that we wanted to touch base on was Tishigan Lake. This is a project in south central Wisconsin. Mostly more than anything else, it's a navigational dredging project. So the lake homeowners have a lot of problems getting their boats in and out to their piers, to their slips. So there's about a 3-mile stretch that connects portions of Tishigan Lake that we've developed a dredge management program for. It's about, let me see, I wrote it down, about 120,000 cubic yards of material that is to be dredged, and the plan for this particular material is to actually process this and then provide it back to farmers for beneficial use. To do that, we had to get a beneficial use exemption from the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. So I'm highlighting that because we're used to some of the permitting requirements associated with managing these types of materials. There's no CDF involved in this particular project, just simply watering facilities. Some of the other highlights that I want to focus on is this improved access for over 100 different property owners. And we are in the process of getting this out to bid this year for construction. And the project was stalled for over 8 years. So we were able to come in and kind of get the project accelerated again, assist them with the fund. So those are the 2 projects in Wisconsin. The other thing I want to highlight about both these projects is Brian Bileski, again, couldn't be here today. He's a certified lake manager, and he's the project manager for both of these projects. So tangential to Fountain Lake, he's very, very experienced in this types of.
I just asked one, what was the delay on the permitting? What's the biggest reason for that 8-year delay?
2 parts. Funding was number 1, but number 2 is they really couldn't find the right partner to move things through the permitting process. And that's where Brian Bileski really came in. He utilized his expertise.
So the next one is take you to an island. Island time. So it's actually on Nantucket, and it is it's called Nantucket Pond, but it's a 40-acre pond in Massachusetts. They have special waterways that they call Great Ponds. It's a statute, of state significance. This lake has numerous and repetitive algal blooms, nitrogen, phosphorus, abundance, and is really a recreational highway. The challenge for this is not necessarily dredging, albeit access is a living nightmare. There's a beach that's maybe about the size of this room that has access because it's either conservation lands, residential development, or endangered habitat for 14 different species of moth. That was a new one. I do have to say that would caught me a little off guard. But what we're doing is we're using about a mile away is the sanitary sewer, wastewater treatment. And we're actually going to be coupling our dredge material dewatering management with the wastewater treatment plant, because they have what are called infiltration systems. So basically half-acre squares, right, where the excess clarified water, they allow it to infiltrate back into the ground. And we're going to be using innovative dewatering approach. It's called a geopool, one of the options. And envision an above ground swimming pool that instead of a impermeable liner, it has a filter fabric. And as you pump the material in the slurry, it is able to seep through the filter fabric. The benefit of the pools is that the clarified water, like you have in the CDF, you can rapidly reduce that. There's louver doors, and you can rapidly get that material out. I led the first global application of the geopool, which is fabricated in Wisconsin. And I led the first global pilot project for that, for reuse of very fine material in a lake here for the state of Ohio. We're currently under construction of the first full-scale facility using that innovative technology. The material that we're pulling in, not only from the facility in Ohio, but also for Unicum Pond, is intended to be beneficially with, I saw on the agenda, a prairie restoration project. In the process, it's actually being published in ecological restoration. The reuse of dredge material for prairie restoration. Professor at Wright State University, which is in Ohio. And it would be one of the first applications. Also doing farm field application, first application, thin layer application of dredge material as a fertilizer equivalency on a farm field set in Toledo. And we were able to, using the dredge material, adjust the phosphorus levels in the farm field with thin layer application. So essentially don't get it super dry, right? And using a manure spreader to put, depending on how much phosphorus is needed, right? We use the dredge material and added an inch to this field, half inch to that field, in order to then, once it's tilled, to blend in root zone and germination zone, the first 2 inches, to bring that up to optimum phosphorus concentration. And right now there's a few students that are looking at the microbial benefits as well, because you're reintroducing microbes back into the soil. So that's another opportunity where we're taking the phosphorus laden dredge material, right, and repurposing it for fertilizer equivalents.
This last one's not as exciting as we perfectly read. But it is a design and procurement project that we worked on. It's a river raising in Monroe, Michigan. So it was depositional removal of depositional sediment that had various contaminants from clean to impacted that needed to go off site. It was removing that depositional material from in front of the shipyard bulkheads, as well as in front of an industrial water intake that fed multiple off river sources. So Geosyntat's role was to do the design, bid documents, and assist the client in review of the contractor selection by ranking them and scoring them based on best value to the project. We start with the projects, review contractor submittals, and in addition, we assess the sediment characteristics to find the appropriate dredge cells to go to the right disposal facilities, which could have been beneficial reuse or offsite as impacted contaminated materials. The dredging on the site included large debris removal, as well as mechanical and hydraulic and diver-assisted hydraulic dredging in front of the more sensitive structures. So that was a good application of the various use of all different types of dredging technologies. So with that, I do want to get into the good stuff, which is now talking about Fountain Lake in phase 3. Maybe pause before I get into that. Any questions up until that point?
I've got a question maybe on the first two projects.
Yeah.
I'm from the ag community, so when you talk about the ag community and phosphorus loading for lakes and the carp in the lakes, have you ever come up with the percentage of what the carp contribute to the problem compared to the ag community? Or
Oh, it's a huge problem because the carp destroy the macrophytic system. And then it flips the lake over to algal blooms, which then causes more eutrophication. So this lake's now hyper eutrophic. The carp love it, they're ripping up the bottom. One of the lessons learned on Lake Mississippi is they said, well, we need to eliminate the carp to remove that component. And that didn't work so well. They poisoned the carp, and then they had an early freeze, and all the dead carp froze in the ice over the winter. And when it thawed in the spring, it was a nightmare for all the populations. So you can imagine the smell, which you can smell from very long distance away. So that is I don't know if there are we have similar issues here.
we have best management practices of our farmers. We have state of Minnesota's, initiated buffer strips. A lot of our farms are pattern tile now, so when you sit down and say, well, the ag communities contribute to this problem, I'd like to know the percentage sometimes, like.
Oh, yeah, how much of that
Yeah,
percentage? Absolutely. And that's what we're focused on, especially. I mean, usually vegetative buffers are some of the best ways to help control it. Sometimes in swells and ditches, just to kind of, or some simple grading to reroute some stormwater. There's also natural features, you can create wetland elements, right, to drop some of the nutrients out, they absorb the nutrients before they enter the stream. So we're looking at lots of different type of very simple ecological. Obviously, we don't want to be a burden for farmers either, so.
Well, and just to enlighten you a little bit, but all the fertilizers now are put on variable rate, lime's put on variable rate, you can variable rate the seed, chemicals that have automatic shutoffs on the sprayers and everything. So I think the ag communities, working there every year, towards the problem, but those darn carp, that's what I'm worried about.
They're a real challenge.
Yeah.
They're a real challenge.
And we've done a fish carp kill in our watershed here 12 years ago or something. So we've tried that too, so.
Yeah. It mixed results.
Thank you.
Any other questions for us on these projects?
We've talked a lot about other states, and we really haven't said anything about Minnesota.
Sure.
I mean, as far as coming into Minnesota, do you have anything that's going to be a hurdle that you normally don't run into with coming into Minnesota?
I can speak a little bit, and then if you guys want to add to that, so we do have over 100 contracts that within Minnesota that have been completed from our Minnesota office, and we do have that local presence as well as experience in Minnesota. So I don't necessarily see that as a challenge. However, we don't intend to, if we have gaps, we want to fill those gaps. And I think that's part of the process today is to understand where our strengths are, where our weaknesses may be, and we can pull in the proper team. If that's not internal, we want a team with the right external partner. And really work this from all angles as a team to complete this. I don't know if you have other.
Yeah, I'll add from the Midwest perspective. Our office in Minnesota is, I think it's a little over 12 personnel. Okay. The thing about Minnesota is, and the reason that we don't have someone from that office in here today is we don't have anyone who has this type of expertise that sits in that office. A lot of that expertise sits in Wisconsin. Corey, you're based out of Raleigh, North Carolina. Almost all his projects are in the Midwest. So Corey and I work a lot together. So that's why we brought in, but we can leverage resources from our Minnesota office. They do have permitting experience. And they focus more though, a lot of the sediment work that they've done in the Minneapolis office focuses more on contaminants. They do a lot of evaluation of fate and transport and effects on the biota in the sediment. They do a lot of passive pore water sampling. They're looking at a lot of their projects are administered by the Superfund program through EPA. They do a lot of projects also with the Army Corps of Engineers. So not quite the same, but all of the Army Corps of Engineers permitting experience, which 4144 programs for water quality, are all transferable to the state of Minnesota. Yeah, good.
So do you have any projects going on in Minnesota now that are within southern Minnesota?
Not that I'm actually aware of.
I don't know if we asked.
I know we had a map at one point with a whole bunch of stars on it. I don't know where exactly those projects are, but we do have active projects in Minnesota. That I don't believe there's 7 projects that are active.
And you said southern Minnesota, and specifically nothing.
I don't know that there's a lot of projects going on. It's
Typically, lake dredging jobs are. There's not millions of them. Right, go yank a tank at a gas station, yes, right, there's a gas station on, every corner, more or less. So for lake dredging jobs, we have to go, we have to travel to where the lake is. A lot of times, and what we have already been talking about is who is our local partner. We bring the overall technical knowledge, implementation, relationships with the contractors, right? The how do we get this done the most efficient? Then we look for the local partner. We're going to have a meeting ISG or in order to have those, kind of more local pulse. We're doing that. I think probably all the projects are Wisconsin, right? But we find those reputable team partners to work with. We have gone into other projects where folks have solely relied on the local, the local engineer who is doing some paving work and is doing they're doing multidisciplinary, and this is unique. And we have to go in and kind of help fix it. So we found that it's better for everybody if we bring that local person in, as part of the team. And then, do it together. And that also applies right to the permitting side. Find a person who has the handshake relationship. But
and I would say be similar to what we did with OBG Ramball as we. The name of the company the last time they were brought up, about working with, Ramball and Bar, on that more local level with permitting and, discharge limits. That's kind of what I see here, with Geosyntec and ISG, and that's why we sort of are gonna meet after this meeting here, just to have, some of those, upfront discussions on where we think we are, what we need for a team. Kind of that aspect of this.
And I think that's the goal again of today, is to really learn what we think we know, what we don't, fill those gaps.
But more importantly, finding out, what you have to have for this project, what you'd like to have for this project. And what, if you had, if you could wave your magic wand, what would you really like, from that perspective? Because you're here. You want to better understand what our fit would be.
So with that, we'll just have a couple more discussion slides and I do see this open discussion. So if there's questions that come up, let's just talk about it. So the process steps, this is a fairly, it's a complex project, but it's a fairly simple process. It doesn't need to be complex. We're at step A, the application. We're trying to understand, again, your goals, needs, wants, wishes. Is what are you guys looking for? What do we want to do? And how can we achieve those? Step one is your data assimilation. You need to get the data, learn about it, get the electronic files, get them into our systems. Step two is begin the permitting. So get that conceptual design going, have those pre-application meetings, understand the mitigation requirements. Are there any fish habitat or environmental requirements that we can work into the design to really check that box, expedite the permitting? Or are there any red flags that, if we do that, this is going to be a non-starter? We need to understand that. Continue to progress the design to get your specifications, your drawings, start developing your bid documents so you can get this thing bid into construction, as well as continue the permitting until we get issuance of that, where we finally do implementation. Get the contractor on board and start this, do the construction oversight, actually get this project moving and seen as a project. So we did identify some goals of what we identified as project goals and Shell Rock River Watershed District specific goals. And I think this is definitely an open discussion that we want to learn about. Project goals is improve water quality, deepen Fountain Lake, and improve the habitat for plants and fish. Shell Rock Watershed District specific goals. We understand that we'd like to commence dredging in the spring of 2025. If we want to just create an efficient and effective design, something that can be, it doesn't need to be 5,000 pages. This is whatever's needed to get this work done and reduce risk to Shell Rock River Watershed District and the contractor, so that everybody understands the work and they go into this with open eyes and a clear picture of what needs to be done, as well as streamline the permitting. Understand the lessons learned from the past, where the hiccups were, what we can do better this time or differently this time to make that process more efficient and push those permits through as simple as possible. And we do have some open discussion questions, but I think this is a good stopping point here as well to talk. I mean, are there any Shell Rock River specific or Shell Rock River Watershed District specific goals that you guys are looking to achieve on this project that we can have in the back of our mind and try to incorporate? Again, a simple example, we'd like to start dredging in spring 2025. Are there goals like that that you want to see implemented?
We look at like all the elements of the project and try to put them into three buckets: your needs, your wants, and your wishes. We'd like to, by the time we, end of the day, by the end of the day, we'd like to be able to try to put, some things into, okay, these are the needs. These are the wants, and these are the wishes. And then as we're developing the project, like the wishes or whatever, but really, you know, that's what makes you happy. You know, how many of those wishes get embedded?
Yeah, and just looking at overall, you know, I think the district has, you know. Some of the members are new. Mike is a newer manager and probably doesn't or hasn't seen the old draft or preliminary design for phase 3. What really what it looks at is nutrient reduction as far as phosphorus within the sediment levels. And then, you know, secondly, with that is deepening and then habitat concerns, along with best management practices, you know, looking at those inlets coming in, having a place for that sediment that's coming in to drop out, and then to remove that stuff over a period of time, so we don't have to continually go in and dredge. You know, so I think there's a good basis for it. You know, I think there's the community out there has some wants, one of those being Bancroft Bay. You know, we talked a little bit about that, with you guys. You know, so that's something that, you know, the board will probably look at and try to over time make some decisions on the Bancroft Bay area. Right now, we have some limited dredging back in Bancroft Bay, including a BMP and where Bancroft Creek dumps in. So those will be something that we'll probably look at. Other than that, I think we have a pretty good plan of what we want with our draft phase 3 plan. But again, we're going to bring somebody in to help us fine tune that plan, and that's hopefully what, you know, you guys will help us with.
And this is something that we can keep as something to table for another day. Is we keep in the back of your mind. As you mentioned, your community needs wants that we need to talk about. So we do have some.
There's a question.
I apologize.
No, that's fine. You know, as you know, we've done 2 phases of Fountain Lake. And the 3rd phase, as a board, we want to be successful in getting all 3 phases done and under budget is what we want to do.
Yeah.
The sales tax that has been raised in the community, you know, it's been going on for, I don't know, what, 13 years, Andy, or 14? Maybe it's longer than that. So we come to the time period where we're going to have to ask the community to renew it or to let it expire, and we want to have a successful Fountain Lake project when we get done here to do that. So yeah, thank you.
To show the communities that are money.
Right.
The job done. That's the big thing. Yeah, that's what we do all our issues with. Basically is with the community, like when are you gonna get done? Yeah, when's it gonna get done? How come this is like this, how come it's like that? Yeah, we want to get it done.
And I think an extension of this is doing this project under budget, you know, exceeding expectations and setting that bar high so that we have momentum going into SRRWD Lake. I think that's a big part of our community's future, being able to utilize that lake fully. So yeah, success on Fountain Lake that translates to confidence and ability to create a moving plan that gets SRRWD done.
Move forward, though. Do have a good, solid project done on Fountain Lake as he moved down in probably what I consider the diamond in the rough of what we did, at least out of the freeway bridge. That's something that would way benefit our area.
You know, one question that we were thinking is, we can take this offline with some larger discussion as well as, were there any complications in phase 1 and 2 of the project that may negatively impact the perception of the agencies? Things that we should be aware of during phase 3 that we need to say, okay, let's make sure that doesn't happen again, so that we're not repeating it. We do get a successful project that's viewed successfully from all angles.
Well, I'll speak to it. I think phase one and 2 are very successful. You know, especially publicly here with the locals. You know, of course, the permitting agencies, you know, they always. Don't like something about something. Maybe it's moss or maybe it's bats. But no, I think locally they were very successful and I don't think we would change anything that we did as we move forward.
And then with that, we're phase 3 permitting is. If we do a mirror approach and try to mirror that permitting, I guess, are there any perceived challenges, specific perceived challenges that you guys see in the permitting process? Beyond just general permitting and communication with the agencies to get those approved?
Yeah, I mean, the number one is gonna be Bancroft Bay. You know, they were pretty, dead set on Bancroft Bay. And just to give you some overview, Bancroft Bay was actually originally part of our first phase 1 and 2. But because we were having such an issue with them on Bancroft, that's why we took that portion of lake out of phase 1 and 2, so we did at least get started with the project. So that's where the district's challenge and whoever we hire, our challenge is gonna be to sell. Even what we have as far as limited dredging. And if the community wants us to go after more, that's gonna be our battle to work out with the.
Is it something specific that the agency's really focused on from a habitat disturbance perspective, or?
Mainly habitat, yes.
Yeah.
I guess the biggest complaint we had from community or people around the lake is that we couldn't get close enough to the shore docks. Yeah. Everything else, we had to stay so far away. I mean, so they thought we weren't getting a good enough job doing dredging because all that crap's still there.
Right, they still can't get out to the water.
And I think
Well, they can in most places, but still, we couldn't dredge anywhere.
Is that in the main lake, or is that in Bancroft specifically?
Main lake.
Okay, yeah.
But I think we did a pretty good job. I mean, everywhere where you look at where we had public docks, public boat landings, we had a 30-foot setback. That's pretty good. Most docks are right around that 28, 30 feet. So that was sort of a give and take that we had with the DNR during permitting, is those dock spaces or where the lake was, too narrow where you couldn't even meet a 50-foot setback. We worked it out so that we got a 30-foot setback where we had a lot of public access points. And then where we did have a lot of public access, that's where we worked with them to move that setback to 75, 50 or 100 feet. So that's not a huge concern for me. I think that was easier to work out with them. So
Then the individual landowner, they do any dredging work into them.
no, I mean 90%, almost 90% of the lake is public shoreline. That's what it was really just on our dredge project. And no really private individuals went above and beyond.
So if the guy's dock is in the mud, it's gonna always be in the mud.
I mean, they can permit themselves for removal if they want.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, but we haven't seen it just because we got really good depth on it. I think enough to float a boat, get your boats out. You'll see that's one of the things in the Bancroft Bay area is that 30-foot offset from a dock and then what we call a navigation channel. Because it is shallow there and they can't get them out to the lake. So that's one of the areas where we want to assist all the private landowners, because that's all private in that area, access to the main.
I think it's something that's one of those things yesterday. Yeah, there were some pretty funky looking motors on the boats that were long stage prop.
One over to
Yep.
Yeah. And we can, I think there'll be more, we'll want to dig in more on the agency's concerns with recycling habitat.
Yeah, most of that stuff we can actually pull out of the original DAW. We'll have a lot of that information on what their
Comments.
were. So yeah, we can definitely get that information too.
You know, one of the things thinking about that we were discussing yesterday. Is typically with something like this where we know this is gonna be a challenge and we have concerns. And I don't, maybe you've done this, we just don't know. It's like kind of a pre-application system. Really, what are there?
We have it for phase 3. Prior to phase 3, we were having monthly meetings with them.
Okay.
Because we knew this was a large project and sort of a one of a kind project here in southern Minnesota. So yeah.
And what we can potentially do is pull in similar examples across the country and what we've done on those projects. To try to ease their mind a little bit that this has been done, this can be done, it'll improve the community. And the use of the lake while maintaining the habitat, which is their primary concern.
Or build proactively build it. Improvements. Allow your follower to work.
All within budget.
And I got some,
No, I'll say.
yeah, and I got some ideas for you guys too about that. Okay. So one of the needs.
Another one we were thinking of, are there any specific project supporters or detractors to the project? So, is there anybody specifically, other than potential agencies that don't necessarily agree with the project approach, that we're all for this, we're promoting this, we want this to be done, or people who are just totally against it, we don't want you to touch our road. And maybe not specific entities, but specific, is there any of that occurring?
I would say 99.9% of the people approve and are incredibly happy with what we've done so far.
You've always got those people that won't agree.
Yeah, it is hard, and you're never gonna appease everybody, but as long as we're doing the best we can for the purpose of the lake, the environment, and the use of everything, I think that's.
Yeah, and we got big backers that are supportive of the project. We got the county, Fremont County, which is a huge supporter. We got the city of Beverly, which is a huge supporter. Then we got the Chamber of Commerce. They've always helped us out, helped us with, sending letters to our legislators, support letters, support documents. I think if you even look at some of the DNR staff that have seen what we've done and seen what we've created, they won't come on and put it on writing.
Yeah, no.
But behind the scenes, they think they've done a pretty good job. So we also have like the Beverly Anglers, which is a local high school angling team. They've always helped us out. So yeah, CVB are big supporters. So
I think the community's already been through that phase of it. And,
I just want to see it finish.
Sure, and it's the Tom Lake schedule is somewhat of we want to see this move, we want to see action, right? Okay.
And even, I live out on the lake, and even when the dredge was like in our bay in front of our house, like the landowners were happy with the project because it was obviously moving. The dredge was quiet. We're hearing this, loud disruptive noise all day. It was very well thought out, very well done. And so I think the community, even at the point where they were having to get around the dredge and stuff like that in front of their home, it was so well done that it wasn't disruptive.
Okay. To move in a little bit further into the discussion, we had some more specific questions related to project and technical areas. And again, this is more just understanding what we can and can't do. Corey, Chris and I, we did drive around yesterday and we did the best we could within public access. We flagged some areas that we want to go back and see if we can today, if time allows, as well as trying to get a better understanding of what this actually looks like, where we think challenges could be. So in terms of the pipeline, was the pipeline routed as shown in the drawings? Was it successful, and can we mirror that same approach?
Yes.
Okay. In terms of permitting, we just had a whole discussion on this, but the approach would be to mirror permitting as well as use what we can from the previous lessons to try to get ahead of those concerns. Come prepared to those pre-application meetings to try to address those concerns, as opposed to having to have repeat meetings, which is likely going to be required based on what we're talking about, but that's something we can try to work towards, is mirror that approach while incorporating lessons learned. Preferred habitat enhancements. So I think, are there preferred habitat enhancements that we want to incorporate into the project? And again, this may be a longer term discussion. And maybe this is more of a permitting ask as opposed to a project requirement of we need to put some fish cradles or to keep certain areas in place. That might be something we can work in.
Especially for the bankrupt,
Yes.
Yeah, and Jason, I'm just thinking, we're getting a little bit more into details stuff now. So I think if we can sort of wrap up with what we got here, and then we'll sort of move into, kind of the later meeting with ISG, and we'll just sort of talk through some of those things. I don't think, again, I didn't know any of those right at this time. But I think it's it's important to think about those questions as well.
I think the other thing that's on our radar that we don't have to get too deep into today is obviously on the back end, the CDF has to be functional, has to be designed the right way. Has to be able to accommodate the volume of sediment that removing from Bancroft Bay and the areas of phase 3. So we're really focused on that too, successful design under budget for the CDF. So and that's the one area that we're very strong. Lots of geotechnical horsepower here in the West. So we do landfills all the time, CDFs all the time. That's bread and butter for us. So we're looking forward to looking at what we have and how we can make some improvements there as well, if there are improvements to be made.
So with that, and Andy, for your thought, I think that is good, because we are getting really into the weeds and actual details and scopes. I mean, I think that's what we had. We are looking forward to the site visit. We have some places we'd like to see as part of that site visit. But we want to thank you again for taking the time. I know we probably got way past the normal, but hopefully it was insightful for us. We hope it was exciting for you guys. Thank you.
Been through it, so we got a lot of questions.
Okay.
As we go along.
Good.
That's good to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate your time this morning.
You're on to item number 8, managers reports. Were there any reports from any of the managers? You're not going to go on to item number 9, upcoming meetings. And you want to talk about board meeting and annual meeting, October 10th, I think, a little bit?
Yeah, so staff was thinking that, we have to do an annual meeting once a year. We haven't, ever since COVID, we haven't done an annual meeting due to COVID, which again, Bowser did not get after us because of COVID. But now that we're moving on from COVID days and moving back into what I like to call reality, I think that we should have our annual meeting. We're looking at potentially having the board meeting and the annual meeting October 10th, 2023. The thought was actually have the annual meeting and the board meeting out in the shop area, open that up, create some seating. So one of the other things that we want to implement is our 20-year anniversary, and potentially having maybe a food truck or something, depending on what we can do. But to have like a little celebration for 20 years of existence for the SRRWD Watershed District, and have just a little celebration with the community, invite them down. Most of them probably have not seen the new building since we moved in last August. So we let them tour the building. So that's one of the ideas. So if I get favorable comments from you guys, I will put Leah on the mission of planning all that, which I'm sure she's favorable.
I think it's a good idea. There'll be a lot of people, local people, commissioners, and everybody else in the community that might be come down here unless something like this was happening.
Yeah, that's a good thought. Maybe we'll send out actual personal invites to county commissioners and city council members as well. Along with CDB and Chamber of Commerce. So,
That'd be a great idea. Okay. Anybody else have any comments?
I agree. I think it's a good idea.
And again, that'll be more of an evening meeting, so probably like 5 o'clock start for board meeting. And then like a 5:45 start for the annual meeting. And then after that, we'll have whatever dessert truck or whatever we decide to do. Leah one time said you guys all need to cook hot dogs for everybody.
Mr. Guggle is aware of that. Paper.
Will help us stay under budget.
Yeah.
Is there anything else? I will entertain somebody to take a motion to adjourn. Move by Mr. Kramer, do I have a second? Second. May I please call roll?
Manager Bakken?
Aye.
Manager Kramer?
Aye.
Manager Siski?
All right.
Manager Lee? Manager Delter?
Aye, we are adjourned.